There it is.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I don't know why.
Thank
Okay.
you for that. We appreciate
Heads
it.
up. Okay. It being the evening of Wednesday, April 27th at 7 o'clock and a quorum being present, I'll call the meeting of the Conservation Commission to order pursuant to Governor Baker's signing of Senate Bill 2475, an act related to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will meet utilizing the Zoom online option. Instructions and invitations are available at the town website, www.bellinghamma.org. And moving forward at this meeting, the chair instructs the meeting administrator to withhold access to speak at the meeting until or unless such persons requesting to speak are visible on screen and respectfully request such access. We'll proceed with the opening of the first continuation. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposed project consisting of toe embedment of an existing armored slope in order to provide for a stable slope foundation and located in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. The filing also proposes 1,330 square feet of buffer zone restoration for buffer zone disturbance. The project is located at Assessors Map 64, Parcel 212, Lot B, 0, Lovers Lane, Bellingham. Mark Arnold, Goddard Consulting, Northborough, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Rick Terrell, South Center Realty, Corey Drive, Milford. The continuation will be held via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, April 27th at 7. Okay. Mr. Arnold, you are present.
Yes, sir.
So, if I may, we have our peer reviewer present. I'd like to just quickly speak to the work that has been done so far. And I believe that the commission is satisfied with the buffer zone enhancement, the wetland replication, and the additional buffer zone enhancement that's being proposed as a result of previous alterations to the open space. I think that the work you've done there, Mark, is good. The issue I think that we have moving forward, and we have had some conversations with the DPW, because we find ourselves in somewhat of an unenviable position, kind of representing DPW and the zoning board in this matter. And what we're looking at here, Mark, is a solution for long-term viability of that wall. And when the wall was constructed, there's no geofabric. And so I think the commission's a little concerned about that viability. And we don't have a whole lot of time, but I think it's an important enough issue that we get Frank, our peer reviewer, involved, because I know, Mark, that you personally, you guys as a representative are looking for some kind of direction for information that you might need to provide to get the necessary permit.
Correct. We submitted, the last plan was submitted on March 11th, and that plan was revised based on comments from the commission to provide more detail, and it also provided more detail for the peer reviewer to provide a more comprehensive review of that. And at the hearing after March 11th, the commission had requested that we do peer review, and the applicant was glad to let that occur and allow that to proceed. And we are awaiting BSC's formal letter to outline exactly what their concerns are about the plan that was submitted with regards to the planned toe embedment and whether or not any other measures are necessary for BSC to feel comfortable that this wall is going to be long-term stable and represent the concerns of the town of Bellingham.
Okay. And I know that one of the issues that we've had that administrators had in conversations with the peer reviewer, that the design was submitted by Kevin Martin, and he's a PE, but we're not sure if he has geotechnical engineering expertise to be able to assure the long-term viability of the wall. And that being said, I'll pass this on to Frank.
Let's see. I don't know if, let's see if I can share a screen. I guess not.
Certainly.
Yes. I'll let him do
Is
that.
Ariane here?
No, Noel.
Noel.
Noel is not here.
Okay, hold on. Give me a sec.
No problem. I did send you a email with the little couple of standard
Yes, you do.
cross sections, and that's sort of what I wanted to show. So
Is it down here?
No, I'm not used to doing that.
No.
Give me a second.
no problem. I usually have one of the younger folks in my office with me when we do these things.
And we do too.
Yeah.
You have a younger person in your office, Frank?
A few of them.
I thought there
A
was
number of
something.
years ago, I realized that I had started working before most of the people I worked with were born. And I was depressed for a week or two, but I got over that. So,
I thought that was a simple thing here to be able to.
Perhaps one of our commissioners know, how do we allow sharing screen?
As the host, shouldn't there be something down at the bottom which says?
Down at the bottom, that's what I
No, I
thought.
don't see it there.
It's in the middle in
Know who the
green.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Okay, there we go. Share screen.
mine still says that the host disabled participating screen. Wait a minute. Let's see.
Oh, Cliff is sharing his screen.
Yeah, Cliff is sharing your screen. You
Oh,
want to give
nice.
Frank permission?
Oh, man.
That's why we asked Noel to handle this. And she's
So,
not here tonight.
So you got to close the share screen first. Or just say, click on stop sharing.
You are screen sharing. Stop share right there. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, now you're back. Now you want to, I think, don't you click on Frank and then say share? Then you're telling the system you want him to share with?
Doesn't look right.
Hold on. No, that's not working.
Close that window. Let's try that again.
Maybe no one has admin privileges or the host privileges.
Can
I
we
think
let
that's
someone
enough.
else handle this?
I know you guys have done it before and it sounds like it's not letting you
It's
use
not
this.
complicated. Usually when I hit more, I have the opportunity to just say share screen, but I don't see it.
Are you trying to share your screen or are you trying to have Frank share his?
Frank.
Frank.
I think you go in the top right corner of his screen will be the three little dots with a blue square. If you click on that, you should be able to make him a co-host. Usually the system is set up to have hosts only allowed to share.
Co-host.
Okay.
My coworker is in the waiting room. Do you think you could let him in?
I'm sorry?
One challenge at a time.
Yes, really. Can we let somebody else handle this for our meeting?
It has to be an administrator to let Frank,
So Frank's now a co-host, so
Yep.
Frank should be able to share now.
and then you can let the other person in.
No, I'm letting the other person in, but.
There you go.
There you go, Frank.
Frank's
There we go,
in.
Frank.
All righty.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, folks. So if you can see that, and I'm going to make my screen bigger. So this is, I went through, there's a bunch of different standard details for riprap slopes. And again, some of the details vary, but typically you've got it on your soil, the little crosshatch. Then there's often a filter fabric or geotextile fabric to make sure that the fine material behind it doesn't erode out and go undermine the riprap. and you usually put in some kind of gravel or crushed stone, and then you have the riprap. And again, there is an embedment here, and this detail shows 2 feet and a little bit of flat area. The system that was built basically just was laid upon the slope, ties into the existing grade down the bottom here, so it's not embedded at all. And there's really nothing behind the stone. It's large stone, but it's nothing behind the large stone to hold things in. The second item is when I looked at the geo report, they had some nice pictures, and I think there were also some in the notice of intent. There are large holes in that riprap, and the real concern is water, whether it infiltrates down from the top as it's coming from the slope or through the ground, can take that fine material out, and over time, the material supporting the rock does not stay in place, and the rocks start falling down. The second item is when the stone is not embedded, it's sort of lying on the ground below it. And if that erodes out over time, then the stone starts falling down. That's the issue that looking at the information that was provided, looking at the plans, that's the concern I have, that over a long period of time, water is going to get into this system, whether it falls on it directly, whether it goes through the ground level. And the concern would be there'd be erosion out underneath this area here. So, and I'm concerned that something more has to be done for the embedment. Now, whether that, again, whether that goes down and they actually dig a hole and put something in the existing grade to block it off or something like that and go back from there. But my concern with just putting a bunch of dirt down here, that may erode. If water runs down the slope, that could erode over time, and that embedment could disappear. Now, that being said, so that's just wonderful detail, and I have about 5 different versions of this. So the concern that I have otherwise is in the report that was put together by UTS, and I did a little bit of more research after I talked with you, and Mr. Martin notes that he's a geotechnical engineer. His stamp is a civil engineer, but the letter is written as, if you do this, it will work. If it's built accordingly, the last line I think is pretty, provided the proposed improvements are implemented and reviewed, inspected by UTS, then the slope shall be considered stable per typical engineering design. It's not exactly typical because it doesn't have the support underneath there, but you know, it doesn't say anything about the existing wall, if there's issues with the existing wall. And I'm not suggesting that you go back in and they take out all the rock and rebuild it. What I'm sort of suggesting is there something that can be done to improve the existing riprap? Fill in the holes. I don't know. And I'm not a geotechnical person. Is there something you could put in the ground to basically try to stabilize it? Sometimes in some of these walls, there's actually a perforated pipe at the bottom that allows water that accumulates the back behind it to go out, discharge. You'll see little 3-inch or 4-inch pipe holes that go out through it. So my real question gets down to, while what's being proposed is an improvement, I still don't have a good feeling that the existing wall is stable. And I don't believe my reading of the geotechnical report didn't address the existing wall. It said, if you do these things, it will be better. And so long-term maintenance, at some point, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 years down the road, the town will own Lover's Lane. And I think that's where Don DiMartino's issues are. Is it stable over the long term? Now, I'm not sure if, Mr. Martin could write another letter that sort of addresses that, add some details. Like I said, I know in some cases people have been able to inject something into the soil. That's usually for different uses, not for this. So I'm not sure it's applicable. But that's sort of where I'm going, that I think more attention needs to be done to the existing riprap wall, fill in the holes, maybe do something at the top that would redirect water from going down the slope and behind the riprap at the top. If you look at the pictures, they've got a berm at the very top. That would, if water ran from the edge of the pavement toward that berm, it gets stuck there and it's going to go down behind the riprap. And so, again, maybe there's some kind of, and I've seen some details where they actually embed some kind of material along the top, so you don't get the runoff going behind the, right behind the wall. You know, maybe there's a impermeable barrier there at the top. The wall's 12 feet or 14 feet high. You're not going to be able to dig a hole behind it and insert an impermeable barrier like you might do in some other cases. You put like one of those, say, on a retaining or a wall for a retention and detention basin. But I just, at this point, don't feel comfortable saying that the report, the information we have is acceptable for the long-term maintenance of this device. I'd be happy to put that in writing, but that's sort of where we're at this point.
I understand. And one of the solutions I had come up with was exactly what you said might not be possible. And it was, if necessary, breaking up a portion of the road and digging, you know, a hole behind the wall, lining it and filling it with permeable material like pea stone, and then allowing any water that would infiltrate in that area to be directed to groundwater at the behind the wall. You know, not being an engineer, but having to deal with a multitude of these kinds of problems, I thought that might be a viable solution. But
I might just modify that suggestion a little bit, Cliff, and that would be, you sort of do this when you have the drainage right along the edge of a roadway. It's part of your subdivision plan. Now, rather than putting it behind the wall, maybe you could tie that little drain at the top or along the top into one of the local catch basins. That way there, the water is taken away from going down into the slope. It's gone into the storm drainage system and discharged somewhere else.
I get it. Okay. Mark, I know none of us are.
I just want to make sure I understand. So, Mr. DiPietro, your review was based on the March 4th, 2022 site plan, correct?
The review, the information I had is based on the December stuff.
Okay, so first of all, the comments that he's discussing are not based on the most current site plan submitted to the Conservation Commission. The plan that we have before the commission is from March 4th, 2022, was submitted on March 11th. So that's the first thing, is I want to make sure that Frank has the correct plan in front of him to make sure his comments can be reflective of the current plan, because that plan did provide some more details, which I think are helpful to the things that he noted. Is someone able to share that plan, or could I share that plan? Because I think I'd like to walk through Frank's comments and just make sure I understand what's needed here. Because that would, I think, really help expedite this, and hopefully we can finish this in a very few minutes, quick.
Can you let the people in the waiting room in?
And you are? Who are you? Mr. Salamander, who are you? No, I don't think I'm going to let Slurp in at this time. I'm going to have to make you the co-host, Mark.
All right,
Okay?
I promise not to do anything except share.
I got it. We can trust you.
So this is the site plan that was submitted to the commission on March 11th. Sorry, let's make this a little bigger. So stamped March 4th, 2022. The first comment was there's no fabric behind the slope, which is correct. At least from our acknowledge, there isn't any fabric behind the slope. The only way to add fabric behind the slope would be to rebuild the slope completely. So the intentions with regards to the voids between the stones was to infill and shink the open rock voids with smaller rocks, in the sense of packing in with smaller rocks to fill in those voids, to basically fill them in, prevent them from being a void space, probably packing them in slightly with a machine, so that way they're nice and tight and it fills the void. We could put fabric behind those packed stones to at least create small areas that have fabric behind them, at least to create a seal in those areas. But if the concern of BSC is that they need fabric behind the slope, then the slope would have to be completely rebuilt. And if that's what is requested, I can talk with the applicant about how we want to proceed. But I want to be clear about that. This plan does show embedment of at least 2 feet with a 3-to-1 slope at the bottom. So that means that the bottom stones will be embedded at least 2 feet. I'm not sure if that's a concern or not, but that's what this detail shows. The third one was the water at the top of the slope. So right now we have a slope on the top, which is pitched towards the street, except for a 3-foot wide riprap apron, and that's to provide a break between the grass and the stones that drop down the slope. And so that's what this 3-foot apron is for. And so water superficially would flow to the street mostly, except for this 3-foot area. But you would get percolation of this small strip. We're talking, it's about no deeper than 10 feet wide, and the length of the wall, which is 40 feet, 50 feet. So we're talking that much area of surface water that could percolate down behind the wall. The street does have the intention to have a perforated subdrain tiles in the street. If there was a concern about water from the rainfall in this area, you could, as Frank noted, you could do some sort of liner to direct the water away from the wall and maybe into, for example, this system by literally scooping out a curved section of soil from the stone down to the actual pipe as a liner. That way, all water that would come down would eventually percolate and end up in this system. You could do that. That would at least eliminate some water there. And these are both on both sides. That's on that side of the street again, just for underground drainage versus water that's on the asphalt. Water that's on the asphalt will go to the catch basin at the end of Lover's Lane here because of the curbing. The question of water behind the pipe, behind the wall, there's really no possibility again to put a pipe underneath or behind this wall unless you rebuild the wall completely. And so with those notes, Frank, if you could just clarify the concerns, because again, I understand their concerns, and I want to make sure that we do something that is amendable and workable and what the town will allow. As we understand, we're under the town's pleasure here with regards to the slope, because the town wants to ensure the slope is stable for the long term and for their ability to maintain it. So with regards to the fabric, the large stones, no total amendment, and the water, could you just clarify your thoughts after me walking you through this plan?
Sure. So I'll start at the top and work my way down. So one of the details I've seen, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, we're going to need to continue this.
Okay.
But what I'm wondering, okay, this is similar to what I was saying, excavate behind the wall, create some kind of a sump to take surface water and channel it away from the wall. So I like the thought processes here, but we do have 2 more hearings that we need, and they're both continuations, and one's an open and close. So if you'll bear with me, I'd like to continue this for probably another 10 or 15 minutes. Mark, is that okay with you?
That's fine. I can wait.
Okay, in that case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to after our next 2 hearings.
There's a Birmingham postal officer named Chris in the waiting room.
Okay. Second. Wait, so moved. Sorry.
Okay, so we
Second.
have a motion and a second by roll call. Brian?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Ariane?
Aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote. I don't know who the postal service person is. Who is Mr. Salamander, please?
I would not let any of them in, Cliff.
No, I have a problem with people. We already read, you need to identify yourself and present your credentials or interests. We don't know who these people are. So
Appreciate their interest in the Conservation Commission, though.
it's amazing, isn't it? Well, maybe it's a big night for the salamanders. Okay, that being the case, we'll move forthwith to the Lincoln properties. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposed roadway mitigation along site frontage entrances to Curtis Apartments as required by Mass DOT, including installation of additional catch basins connecting to the existing system at the easterly end of the site and within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. The site is located at Assessors Map 51, Parcel 4, 4A, 4B, 6, 8, and at 161, 163, and 167 Mechanic Street, Bellingham. Keith Lincoln, Chapel Engineering, Marlboro, Mass. has submitted the filings on behalf of Rustian Campanelli, 1 Campanelli Drive, Braintree. The continuations will be held on the evening of Wednesday, April 27th at 7:15. Apologies, we're a couple minutes late.
No worries at all.
So this is pretty much a performer hearing. We've had the hearing, we've reviewed the data. The commission was satisfied with the improvements, which are substantial, that have been made. So the order has been distributed to members. No comments have been received. So what I will do is ask if there are any comments from the commission relative to the development of the order.
One quick thing, Mr. Chair, I've noticed, and if the applicant's reps could just pass this along to the developer, that in passing by that regularly in the last month or so, we're starting to get blow across the road of construction debris, tieback, sheathing and material and so forth. So I know it's coming from the site, and some of that's actually blowing into the areas that we're talking about in this plan. So if they could just patrol it once a week or something, just pick up the loose stuff. It's all easy pickup, and it's obviously coming from across the street. So that would be help keep our areas protected. That would
I'll
be
have a
great.
waiver on it in the morning, Mike, and I
Oh.
will make sure my super note hears about this right now.
Excellent. Thank you. I know it's a quick and easy thing. Somebody just walk up and down.
Okay, thank you.
Did you let Rusty on? RD on? Did you let him in? Okay, never mind.
Okay.
He was on. I think he might have popped off.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, that being the case, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue the prepared order of conditions.
So
Can you
moved.
please let Christopher Regin in? He's a new architect and he graduated for MIT.
And who are you?
Can we please have that vote?
Okay, so we have a motion.
Can we just give Mr. Salamander the boot?
Well,
I agree.
so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? That being the case,
Roll
I'll
call.
call for the vote by roll call. Ariane,
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote.
Jeff, does this this permit go to you? Can I send it to you?
Absolutely. You can send it to me, and I'll make sure everyone gets conveyed.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. It was great working with you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, and then we have this is a continuation request, the next hearing, and we're on time for it. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposed 19-lot residential subdivision entitled Prospect Hill Estates, located at Assessors Map 69, Parcel 87, and Map 65, Parcels 20 and 22, off Lake Street, Bellingham, and Prospect Street, Franklin. The project includes 19 residential lots, roadway, utilities, grading, and stormwater management system. The project proposes impacts of 35 linear feet to bank, 80 square feet of land under water bodies, 490 square feet of bordering land subject to flooding, 580 square feet of bordering vegetated wetlands with 1,200 square feet of replication, and total impacts to the riverfront area of 126,674 square feet. That includes 52,000 square feet of inner riverfront area and 74,625 square feet of outer riverfront area. Paul McManus, Ecotech, Worcester, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Louis Petrosi, Wall Street Development, Westwood, Mass. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, April 27th at 7:30. Okay, so we have received the we've received the DEP file number and a fairly lengthy statement of deficiencies and items that need to be addressed. Those items are coupled with numerous items that the commission directed the applicant to provide at our last continuation, not the least of which is the fact that because numerous lots do not meet the lot definition of 90% of lot area required be not jurisdictional to the Conservation Commission, redesign is going to be required. The applicant has requested a continuation. So before we do that, I'd like to know if there's any opportunity for the commission to go out and to familiarize ourselves with the site, especially participating in a review of the wetland line, not getting involved in the riparian zones, but strictly a wetland line. It's a fairly extensive wetland system. Do we have any opportunity to get out there and?
I don't think this Saturday is going to be viable because I believe that Paul McManus is still working on getting some of the resource areas flagged. Is anyone available on Saturday, May 7th?
I see.
How long do you think this will take, Ian?
Well,
This one might be lengthy, Neil.
well, we're not gonna obviously we're not gonna be able to do the whole thing. So we would do whatever we can do.
Neil, figure a couple hours.
I could do a couple hours.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, that's good.
Perfect.
But I have a luncheon engagement, so I'd have to be done well before that.
Okay.
Lucky you. So I see Neil, Mike. I know Brian is.
No, I'm not gonna be able to.
Fading fast.
I'm sorry.
He's fading fast.
Oh, don't
Yeah,
say
don't
that.
say that.
By drone, maybe? Brian, drone?
Don't drone on, Mike.
Uh-huh.
All right. So
Now, I still have to confirm with the applicant that this would be a doable date. So this is a tentative, and I appreciate your efforts on trying to accommodate us and this applicant.
all right. Well, we have several members who can make it. Mike, Neil, myself, if they can prepare to get the flagging completed. So,
I will let you know.
all right, thank you. That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of June 8th at 7:30.
So moved.
So move it.
Is that a second?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, by roll call, Ariane,
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
and Brian.
Aye.
Okay, that's by unanimous vote. All right. Now, what I would like to do is go back and continue the discussion
Hold on.
on 0.
Do you want to do Mellon Street inclusion? Mellon Street.
That's at 8.
No, it's at 7:30. I asked him to come in at 7:30. I asked him to come in at 7:30.
All right. All right, Bill Housing's here. We do have another one.
Not till late.
No, it's Mellon Street. But before we open this up, I think that we've had an opportunity to look at some people who are trying to access the meeting for nefarious purposes. They've all left except for one person. I'm going to enter that person and ask for their credentials before we open this up. Is that acceptable to the board?
Not so much their credentials, but at least identification. Yeah, I think you're entitled to that. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Mason or Ms. Mason. You are present at the Conservation Commission meeting. I'm asking for you to identify yourself and state your purpose for being here, please.
I'm gay.
Well, that's good. You're good.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you for being good. Okay. So that little bit of business has been taken care of. So we know that some of these people were, in spite of the credentials being complained, stated being from MIT.
It would be very helpful if we, if Noel doesn't show up, if we had another member of the Conservation Commission that could assist the chairman in taking care of these issues. It's very difficult to be running a meeting and to be controlling the Zoom meeting as well. So please, somebody.
Noel hasn't.
I can help.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
If Noel can't make it, we'll set you up, Ariane.
thank you.
Thanks. So, okay, the Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuation of public hearings in accordance with the Wildlife Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the proposed roadway drainage improvements, including the abandonment of an existing culvert and installation of a new 15-inch RCP with 2 head walls with proposed impacts of approximately 50 square feet of bordering vegetated wetlands and associated buffer zone located in the roadway right-of-way for Mellon Street, Bellingham. Bill Housing, Land Planning, Bellingham, Mass. Has submitted the filing on behalf of Don DiMartino, DPW Director, Bellingham, Mass. The continuations will be held via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, April 27th at 7:30. Okay. Once again, this is a hearing that's had several continuations since site visits. Modifications have been made. Plans have been reviewed. The draft order of conditions has been submitted for review from the commission, and no comments have been received. That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue the prepared order of conditions.
So moved.
Michael,
Second.
Ariane, are there any comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Because there's so few people here and I recognize the voices, that is a unanimous vote.
Okay.
Thank you. The order goes to Don DiMartino.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks a lot.
Got it.
Good.
Okay. So. The first hearing of the evening was for 0 Lovers Lane. We had viable discussion proceeding, and we interrupted that discussion to take care of 3 other orders of business. That being the case, I'll dispense with the reading of the advertisement and reopen the hearing for 0 Lovers Lane, the slope embedment, stabilization work, and existing slope and buffer zone restoration. Okay. So, Mark, if you would not mind.
I think Frank, again, Frank, you were going to walk us through from top to bottom the
Yep.
issues with the
Okay.
water, and then the fabric in the holes, and then the embedment.
Much better when I'm muted. If you wouldn't mind, Mark, being able to share the plan you had. I had not seen that plan previously.
I don't know why. I hope I sent it. I apologize if I didn't send that out to you.
I will check. Sometimes things get stuck in the, I don't know, the recycle or whatever the heck it is. So I checked it there.
The trash bin?
So,
I hope it didn't go to the trash bin.
I am so sorry. I am
that's-
so sorry.
So I think starting at the top.
Junk mail filter.
Junk mail, thank you. I wish some of my boss's memos, but never mind, I won't go there. Starting from the top down, I think, though, I like the idea about putting the impermeable barrier across the top. One item that might be a little, I've seen a couple details like this, wherein you run it maybe 6 inches or so below the surface, and then you sort of take it around the pipe system so that water, depending how that drain is set up, it's typically got impermeable, perforate drain, something like that, so that you're basically collecting it and just running it across the surface as much as you can. I think that would be handy. I'm not really sure how effective sort of cramming some fabric between the holes is going to be. I just, it certainly would be help, but I'm not sure that's something that's going to be very effective. A question I might have on that is, if the rocks were put in, or the riprap was put in relatively tight, that it's being held in by more than just filled in the hole and is loose in there, that would be a little bit helpful, I think. I'm not suggesting that, in fact, you remove all the riprap and rebuild the wall, to be perfectly honest. You might ask Mr. Martin if there's something that could be, like I said, injected in there, put in it, that might provide some kind of a limit to water seeping through that. There may not be anything, and I don't know that. The 2-foot sort of berm at the bottom, I guess my question with that is there, again, maybe some kind of fabric that could be put over that, a geofabric or something like that, that would hold it in place a little bit on the surface that will allow the grass to establish itself substantially. My concern would be, it's going to take a little bit of time for the grass to grow when you put that in there, unless you do hydroseed or something or whatever. But anything that might help armor that a little bit, that will allow the grass to go up there, and you'd have essentially a erosion resistant slope. I understand you're sort of trying to make sure you're not impacting the resource area or the 25-foot no disturb zone in there. The other question I'd have, and I see the plan, I don't know if there was another report from UTS, but would it be possible for UTS to They provide the details of what's out there in their report. This was the December 22nd, 2020 report, 21 report, excuse me. And they talked about how if you do this, it's going to be good. It would be nice if they could provide some information on the stability of what's out there right now. So could we anticipate, oh my God, it's going to fall down in 10 years, or if we, they're saying if we do this stuff, but they're not saying what's out there is suitable, or, if they had anything else that might be done. Again, it's not applicable here, but I even looked at gabions. So, gabion is basically a metal cage wherein you put a bunch of stone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you didn't, if you tried to put a metal fabric over the top of the thing, I'm not sure how you didn't engage inside that would stay in place or that wouldn't rust away over time. But I guess it would be nice to have them take a look at it. And then if they do that, a couple things. They talked about it has to be implemented exactly as they suggested. It'll be inspected by them. I would suggest that that kind of inspection, whatever the memorandum would be, has to be provided to the town. And not only conservation, but I think because of the issues with the long-term maintenance over time, I think it's something that the folks at the DPW should take a look at and review and provide input on.
Okay. So just a quick observation on the gabions. I've seen gabions used in the past, but usually there's filter fabric or something behind them.
Correct.
What's happening here is that, Mark, you have to understand, Frank is going to participate in a peer review, but we haven't accepted the scope and funded the peer review account yet. So we're trying to give you a little bit of direction in which way to go so that when the final review is conducted,
So I think what you're asking is does Frank think it's wise for us to try to look at the issues he's raised tonight, revise a plan with some additional details so that he can then create a scope to review that plan?
I think that's exactly
versus something else. And then if that's what the commission wants and that's what Frank thinks is going to be the best way to expedite his review, I can definitely talk to the applicant about that and see if we can get that going. And again, as soon as we know how much funds are needed, just let us know and we'll cut the check.
Okay.
The two quick things, Frank, that you brought up, which were actually good, was you mentioned GeoGrid. So our plan is to do erosion control mats on the slope for the toe embedment. But you could also put in like the geogrids that are used for example, like grass paved areas, basically, where it's actually a grid system where you fill it with loam and that allows the grass to grow, but you can actually drive vehicles over it. And it actually creates more of a locking mechanism across the area. That could be something that could be, is that what you were envisioning more than just erosion mats?
That would be something that's much more sturdy and more durable. So yeah, that would be, I think, something that I would suggest we could look at.
Yep, and that would allow for long-term stabilization in nature to kind of reinforce that naturally with roots as things go on too. But I think that that's
what is the GeoGrid made out of? That actual grid material?
It can be made out of plastic, but it can also be made out of basically just geotextile fabric.
Yeah.
That would break down over time and be
it could, and I think, this is again the question for Frank is the concern the first like 5 years on this toe, or is it 30 years? Because again, or 40 years, because if you're taking long term, that's a different measure to be implemented than the main concern, which is erosion on the slope.
Speaking on behalf of the town, we need to have this to be viable for our lifetime because, Mark, we permitted.
I understand that that's your concern, but I was wondering what was Frank's kind of underlining concern of that comment I can understand the concern, but I want to make sure that was his concern. Was your concern the long-term viability of the toe embedment material staying in place?
So it was sort of a little bit of both. So when you put it in right away, it's going to be bare earth, much more susceptible to erosion. And if that goes out at that point in time, there's going to be, I think, a problem. Longer term, I think it has to be maintained in a vegetated state so it doesn't erode later on. Now, whether that's with, I don't know, some kind of a geogrid that holds the grass or whatever the plantings are, whether you put in plantings that will put roots down and essentially anchor that soil in place. Either one of those couple of things I think would be suitable in my opinion. You got to worry about the initial installation, and then I think the longer term, you've got to have something in it that's going to hold the soil in place.
So our current plan, just so to make sure Frank understands, is our current plan was to backfill this 6 inches of loam, loaming and seeding with a conservation seed mix and using erosion control mats on that slope. And then along the toe of that slope, we were going to replant trees and shrubs to revegetate the edge of the limit of work. We could add more trees or shrubs up a little bit. As this cross section shows, we can move the trees and shrubs up if that's a concern to densify the vegetational plantings that would be established to drive roots down into the ground there. That's one way, or we could go with the geotextile. So I'm sure the commission wouldn't mind more plantings as long as that's not going to be a structural issue. But that's what we had.
Oh, sorry, Ariane?
Would trees be the best thing to plant there? I mean, shorter vegetation could probably establish erosion control just as well, if not better. I just imagine a tree on a really steep slope falling over.
It's
The
a
next
3-to-1 slope, so it's fairly shallow. So, but again, we could just do a bunch of shrubs in a very dense pattern, and across that slope to help stabilize it. Again, using erosion mats as well, because I think the commission wants 2 years of monitoring on these areas for erosion. So we'll have 2 years of documentation to prove that it's stable, or 3 years that it's stable. So I think that provides some security on the erosion thing.
And the viability.
And the viability of it. And so if the erosion can be addressed, that's step one. And the question again is the long-term erodibility of it. And I think, Frank, I'll definitely ask UTS about that. Because I think there could be some more creative solutions that we could possibly implement. If there's nothing else that you kind of want to just kind of point us in the right direction on to look into.
I think the only thing about the shrubs, I'd not plant them where you have the riprap slope. I'd end them, say, at the existing toe slope, so you don't have roots going into the riprap stone and stuff like that over a long period of time.
So if you can see this red line right here, we'd plant them from this line over to here.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think we'll look into doing that, adding plantings in to densify that, and then also look into what else we could do to possibly help reinforce the ground as a whole while still allowing the plantings to thrive. It could be just a short-term geogrid that breaks down over time, but provides long-term security for the soil while the shrubs really get going, possibly, I mean, giving the soil long-term, short-term stability in the sort of short-term, like maybe 5-10 years of geotextile fabric material there while the shrubs get in. And then after 10 years, the trees should be well established to where long-term it should be stable. So that was very helpful, Frank. So I think the other question, Frank, was the Gabian netting. So, I mean, I've seen armored slopes where they just put a metal cage over the slope just to prevent things from sliding out. And that could be anchored somehow, in the sense of you could anchor it if the holes are filled with rock, you could cover it and then anchor the mesh into the rock at specific locations to keep it in place. But that, I don't know if that's what the town really wants there versus something else.
It's not very aesthetically pleasing.
No.
Yeah, the Gabian, you could do like a layer over the existing wall of a leaning Gabian wall with the metal cages and rocks in between. Then you could put fabric behind that, but it's almost like it's just a covering over what's underneath. And I don't think that's
I would agree with that. I think the only other item, so the report by Mr. Martin was December 22nd. if he could update that for whatever the latest plan is, and then provide that information so that that's current. We've got someone that says, I don't want to put blame on anyone, but someone that basically has stamped something saying, this is what we believe would be working.
Yep.
And so that it's in there. And if they could, again, talk a little bit, they talk about the existing wall, but they don't mention the issues with it. They note there's some holes and stuff like that. And so if there's a fundamental flaw, and I think this, what you're talking about right now will probably address that, we would want to know about that from a
Yes.
geotechnical perspective before the town, I think, wants to take any kind of final action on it.
Yeah, understood. I'll make sure they add that in. I mean, I met with him on site and he definitely looked at the wall and said, yeah, I don't like the way it looks right now. I definitely don't, I don't like the long-term stability of the wall. I mean, he said, there's some things need to be done. And I said, well, that's exactly why you're here. You're here to figure out what's the best way to ensure the wall stabilizes. But I'll make sure he adds that narrative because I think it's important information for the town to have of what he thinks about the current wall stability, because that helps evaluate everything. So yeah, we can definitely get you that information.
And so, Ian, will you be able to disseminate that information to the DPW?
Yeah.
Okay. Or should we ask them to do it?
So Mr. Chairman, we can definitely make sure that the next information that's submitted is circulated to
Thanks.
To Jim,
to Jim and DPW.
and Don
So
Martinez.
we'll CC them on the next submittal with a new plan stamped by Kevin, a new letter from Kevin as well with the information. We'll update the planting plan as well to add some additional plantings if that's the direction that Kevin thinks is also workable, which I think he will agree to, which will add to the buffer zone overall. And then we can get that to BSC, and then BSC can do a scope. So hopefully, Frank, you can kind of draft a scope so you can quickly issue it, because if it, in terms of writing you a check, we can write a check very quickly, and we don't want money to be a holdup to you getting your review done once we submit additional information. So let us know as soon as you can, and then we'll get that to you. Is there anything else, Mr. Chairman, that the commission wants to discuss on this topic? I think Frank and I covered everything.
Actually, there was one item on the abutting lot. There was going to be an additional treatment proposed for the wall on the abutting lot. Did we make any progress on that?
Do you mean, you mean the stepped wall right here?
That's it right there. Yes.
So I know there were some plans. I haven't heard about a definitive plan yet, but I will press the applicant to get me that information, because it's something that I know I've been reminding them about, and I haven't heard definitive details. I know they're getting close, but I haven't heard definitive details. But I'll try to get you those. Yes, that's lot 82A, and I'll make sure we get that information to you, because I know it is part of the whole area and the whole network of walls there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And just so you know, I have a draft of the proposal already done, so I can edit it when I have a reference to the latest materials.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Frank.
Okay.
Quick
Yes,
question,
Mike.
clarification. I can either do a screen share, or if Mark has it right there. It's about the restoration planting plan protocol we have. I just want clarification on 2 items there, if I could. Do you want me to share it, or do you want to bring it up, Mark?
I got it here. Hold on.
Yeah, just be helpful to look at the lines rather than me just saying it. I think it's minor, I hope. Just a clarification.
No, I understand. I want to make sure that we get this right. So,
okay, so if you scroll down to the planting, seeding, and the stabilization, 3rd section, the 3rd and 4th points, bullet points. I think that what you want to say is the application rate is to be greater than the manufacturer recommended rate, rather than the way it's phrased, because the way it's phrased doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
okay.
Okay.
Does everybody see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that the intent? It's to be greater than?
Yeah, that's the
manufacturer rate?
intention. That's the intention, just because we want to make sure that we get really dense growth there. So
Right.
we're going to be extra cautious to make sure we don't want to just go based on what they say, but extra seeding of that type of seed mix never hurts.
Okay, also same thing for the next one down, the roadway shoulder seating, same issue. And then finally, the next one after that, erosion controls consisting of silt fence to be maintained until the area is stabilized and commission approves its removal. Stabilization is different than restoration, where we get 75% coverage by the end of the second growing season. What is stabilization going to be defined as for that area?
I would say at least 75% vegetative coverage of the soil, which is usually the minimum requirement for at least for success in DEP for replication areas. And that usually means the soils are pretty stabilized. If the commission wants it greater than that, I mean, most of the areas that we're talking about are going to be vegetated herbaceously fairly quickly. So, and usually I like to see the erosion controls removed once the ground is stabilized. So that way wildlife can move around easily around the area.
I may have missed it, but what I was looking for also is clarification as to whether the silt fence is also going to be put at the top of the slope, right on the outside edge of the berm, away from the road. That's the top of the slope there as erosion control. Is that what's the measure that's going to be there?
I don't think we had it there, but it's not a bad idea. So I will make a note to put it at, we'll have them put a line at the top of the slope when they do the
So
work.
somewhere where the guardrail is in that area?
Yep. Yeah, right near the guardrail. Okay.
Mr. Chair, does that make sense?
Makes sense.
All right. Thank you. Those were the points I needed to get clarified.
We can continue this.
Okay. So for continuations, we do not have a second meeting in May because there's a conflict with the annual town meeting. So that being the case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of June 8th at 7 o'clock.
So moved.
Neil,
Second.
Ariane. There not being a lot of people present, all in favor?
I
I recognize all the voices. Any opposed? Unanimous vote. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much, Frank.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Appreciate it. Okay. We're going to do stock on the street first.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act and Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for the confirmation of 944 linear feet of delineated bordering vegetated wetlands located at Assessor's Map 20, Lot 12, 79 Maple Street, Bellingham. Ryan Rosine, Goddard Consulting, Northborough, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Anne Marie Hill, Maple Street, Bellingham. The continuations will be held via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, April 28th at 8. Okay. So for a recap and for the record, the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation was filed, and the Conservation Commission conducted a field evaluation to determine whether or not the regulated resource area line as delineated was accurate. The Commission did not agree with the wetland delineation. And in the field, we made an agreement with the applicant to submit this to peer review. The peer reviewer that we selected was Natural Resource Services, and we've dealt with them successfully in the past. The applicant had no problem. They are recognized as being experts in the field. It's Scott Rabideau, and our administrator instructed Scott Rabideau to delineate the wetlands, not to review the wetland line as submitted. Mr. Abadu and his staff went out, they reviewed the wetland lines, and what they determined was that the area immediately behind the house where the lawn is, going into the field, was a bordering vegetated wetland. And I will read a section for the record of the determination of Natural Resource Services. And I quote, "The wetland delineation was based on the criteria established in the handbook titled Delineating Border Vegetated Wetlands under the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, produced by the Department of Environmental Protection, Division of Wetlands and Waterways. The fieldwork performed by Natural Resource Services also meets the delineation standards outlined in the Town of Bellingham Wetlands Bylaw." So what Natural Resource Services determined was that the whole area behind the existing house, with the exception of the existing lawn, was a regulated resource area. Per our agreement with the applicant, we went out in the field with the representative from who originally did the delineation from Goddard, and with Natural Resource Services and with the commission. And there was a lengthy discussion relative to the type of resource area. The applicant's representative insisted that what we were looking at was a delineation based only on the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw. The commission did not agree with that. However, at the applicant's request, we went into the field, into the depths of the area under question, and performed a multitude of soil and vegetative analysis. At that time, we determined that although the area in question was flagged by Natural Resource Areas as a wetland in its entirety, that there were small areas, very small areas of uplands surrounded by a variety of small resource areas that were characterized by necessary vegetation and hydric soils, standing water, and leaf staining. So even though there were small areas within the property that were upland, the greater
Proportion.
thank you. The greater proportion of the property was a wetland. And at that time, the applicant had suggested that he would plot this on a plan, and we cautioned them to make sure that it showed that the commission was in agreement with Natural Resource Services, that the area is a regulated resource area. So we are awaiting the revised plan, and from the commission's perspective, it's a resource area, it's not buildable. It was not an easy determination. A lot of thought, a lot of effort, and multiple field inspections were performed. It's not a capricious decision. It's based on science, and the commission will stand by that. So we had to get the result of our field inspections onto the public record. That was the purpose of this whole discourse. Are there any questions from the commission? Mr. Andrew, do you have any questions?
I just want to make sure I understand this. Basically, you guys reviewed that whole entire area in the back, and it is just wetlands, all of it, or a majority of it.
That's exactly what we're saying, yes.
Right. Awesome.
Well,
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's not awesome, but it was, I understood it.
okay. Well, I'm pleased that you understood it and that
It was a pat on the back for me.
but you've participated in the process. It would have been instructive for you to be able to be out there with us to see what we do, because most people don't see this. We don't regulate from behind a desk. It's all field work.
Yeah.
It was a difficult and challenging delineation. However, it's based on science. We're comfortable with it. So now we're going to have to schedule a continuation because that's what the applicant requested. Our administrator informed the applicant's representative that we had to have this discussion to get the field work on public record, and that's what we have done.
Okay.
In that case, I will entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of May 11th at 7:30.
So moved.
Michael,
Second.
Ariane, all in favor?
Aye.
I heard all the ayes. Okay, very good. Thank you for your participation. We have one more item. And we have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 in the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the proposed repair to an existing failing septic system located within the buffer zone border of Fitchburg Wetlands, Assessors Map 94, Lot 56A, 30 Stockholm Street, Bellingham. Seth LaJoy has submitted the filing on behalf of Jordan Dubé, Stockholm Street, Bellingham. The continuations will be held via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, April 27th at 8:15.
So we're waiting the DEP file number on this one.
We have it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the only reason we couldn't, thank you for that reminder. The only reason we couldn't close this at our last hearing is because we are waiting for the DEP file number. To recap, the administrator and the chairman inspected the property, found it to be in accordance with the plans of record. We conducted a hearing. The order of conditions has been distributed for review. No comments have been received. That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue the prepared order of conditions.
So moved.
Brian,
Second.
Michael.
Again.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I heard everybody, but just in case, opposed? Okay, motion carries. The permit will be issued. Okay. So before we move on to Frank's, is that Galileo? Oh,
We got a few things to do.
I can't.
So Jonas Kepler,
Oh, Kepler, okay.
he was a contemporary of Galileo.
So before we get there, if it's required, do we have anyone available for a special meeting on the 18th of May? We have some issues that may need to be addressed. We haven't found out yet, but before we stick our necks out, because the following week is annual town meeting and we can't make it.
So we're having a meeting on May 11th. This would be the following Wednesday. We're just trying to get a feel to see if anyone would be available that evening. if we need to have a meeting. We would keep it short.
I certainly may be available. No babies about it, right, Neil?
No, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
I'll be in Alaska.
Oh,
No,
yes.
Mike is going to be leaving. Brian is going to be leaving us, so unfortunately, but fortunately for him, I think he's been a valued member, and I want to take the opportunity at the public forum to thank him for his years of service. He has been Mr. Reliable. He doesn't miss meetings. He very rarely misses site inspections. You've been a valued member of the environmental community, and I personally want to thank you, Brian.
Me too.
Definitely. Third that.
Absolutely. Always there to sign things. We very much appreciate it.
Yep.
You guys bring us back some souvenirs from Alaska, will you? A piece of glacier ice would be nice.
All
So
right.
we have two people.
So we have Mike,
Mike and-
myself, and possibly Neil. Ariane, could you make that?
Yeah, I can make that
Okay.
pending.
Okay.
Hand-
So if it's necessary, we will schedule a meeting for the 18th
By Zoom, yeah.
by Zoom.
I will let you
And
know.
the administrator will let us all know, myself included. All right,
What time do you want to do that if you do that?
It would be at
7 o'clock.
7,
Oh, okay.
but I'll let you know.
We'll,
All right.
we'll talk
What time is
to,
the town meeting? 6:30?
no, I think
No,
it's
it's
7:30.
7:30?
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the following week.
And it's really an important meeting for members of the town. There's a couple of things going on that
the 18th.
we may need to participate in. So other than that,
Has the warrant, do you know if has the warrant been posted?
Yes, it has.
it has.
So we can peruse that at our leisure?
Yes.
Please do.
It warrants serious attention, Neil, so give it its due.
Ouch.
There
No,
is something there.
It does. It does.
It does. There's a couple of items there, especially in the Hartford Avenue area. So please pay attention to those. But one of those I'm going to bring to everybody's attention. The DPW wants to do a culvert replacement on Hartford Avenue. It's at the bottom of the hill to the west of St. Brendan's Church. And in order to beef up their application for state funding to replace the culvert, they participated in the Division of Conservation Services dam removal program. They wanted to remove the dam that's on Beaver Brook to facilitate the movement of fish. Now, the administrator informed representatives of the state that there's no Andromeda's fish there, and that the dam has been there since the late 1600s, and that the flora and fauna have acclimated to the existing conditions. And that, coupled with the fact that the Conservation Commission owns the property, would not be amenable to that kind of activity taking place on the site. So the DPW has withdrawn the application for that particular thing. So when you see it, don't get worked up about it, because it's the administrator handled it for us.
No, we should be withdrawn.
Damn right you did.
Mhm.
So
Business. Yeah.
So I think that's good. So we'll ask Frank to talk about Cutler, but what we can do is we can adjourn the meeting so that Amy can head home. So I'll say a
I
motion.
enjoyed listening to Frank, though.
Oh, well then.
Well then,
Sit
Frank,
through it.
I will make it very quick. So
Okay.
Louis Kepler was a German astronomer, mathematician. He was a contemporary of a whole bunch of the folks in the 1600s that sort of just basically discovered or put forth astronomy. And among his many talents was he basically determined the law of planetary motion. Some say the Chinese had done it about 1,000 years before that, but at least in the West, he's got credit for it. He also worked, he was an assistant to Tycho Brahe, who was the court astronomer for the Holy Roman Emperor, Rudolph I. And when Brandt died, Kepler basically stepped into his position. And later on, he was a correspondent with Galileo Galilei, and he actually built a bunch of telescopes, and he was one of the first people to start looking at planets and the moon and things like that. But the point of it all, he also decided he was going to mathematically determine when the universe was created.
Mm.
And using the facilities at the time, he wasn't too bad. He basically said that on April 27th, 4977 BC, the universe was created. Now, in recent times with the Big Bang Theory, he's only off by about 13.7 billion years. But,
Is that rounding up or rounding down?
Oh my God.
anyway, so just thought that would be an interesting fact for the day in history.
That was a good one.
That's a good one.
In the ballpark. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Well,
Thank you for that.
All right.
so I think we're in pretty good shape. Yeah, I hope that we'll be able to get out to Prospect Estates, or Prospect Hills, or whatever they call it. One of the things that the commission should be concerned about is that they're going to be, this requires a MEPA filing. And what we heard in our first hearing is that lot 12, if you'll remember, I asked about the disposition of lot 12, and the applicant said, well, we don't know what we're going to do there yet. That's clearly project segmentation, and according to the rules governing the Mass Environmental Policy Act, you can't segment the project, so we're going to need to know what he wants to do. But one of the interesting things that came up, did you distribute the DEP file number?
No.
Ah, well, DEP is picking up its game. And it was very interesting because they actually read the alternatives analysis, and they said one of the alternatives, if everybody on the commission reviewed it, they had said, well, we can go in along lot 12, along the back of the property, and then into the property. And, you know, it's not cost effective for us to do that. And DEP said so. It eliminates a crossing. I was impressed because we hadn't got to that yet, but you know, that was one of the things we were going to concentrate on. And so for the first time in a long time, it looks like DEP is really picking up its game, and that's heartening to see. That's a little editorializing, and Amy, you don't have to put that in the minutes. Anyway, so there you go. It'll be interesting to see what goes on out there. I went out and reviewed the depot tests while they were doing them. The depot test that we were really concerned about was the one that was in the inner riparian zone. They only had about 2.5, 3 feet separation to groundwater. It was full of cobbles. I told them to do another test out of the riparian zone, and they had about 12 feet. So we're going to be requiring that they do that. They make the movement. While I was out there, I saw an area that was a potential vernal pool, wasn't even flagged as a wetland. Ecotech had a young lady out there who was refreshing the flags, and I said, you may want to take a look at this because it's not flagged as a wetland and it's probably a vernal pool. The administrator and I, after our walk on Saturday, said, well, you know, we're having so much fun. We'll go out in the field and do some more work. And that area had been flagged, and there were potential vernal pool flags up on it. So we need to be able to keep this process rolling. I know Frank is working on developing a scope for the review. We're going to be asking BSC to back us up on whatever determination we make on the degraded riverfront area. It's been raising its ugly head frequently lately. So I think that's it.
Okay. So be it. I move we adjourn the meeting.
Fair enough.
Second.
Okay. Do I need to call for a vote?
Yes.
Brian has to sign us out. Come on, Brian.
I believe you do.
Brian?
Aye.
Final words. Aye, aye.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
hope you have, I hope you have a good time, Brian.
Yeah, have fun.
I'll see you at the next meeting.
All right.
All right. Thank you. everyone.
Night, everybody. Night, Brian.
Frank.
Thanks, have a good
Amy.
evening.
Thank you, Amy. Take care now.
Amy, bye.
Bye.
Bye.